Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's Space Engineers Plus Me, episode 33. I'm Enigmius, and today, kind of a chill episode compared to the last one. The last one had all kinds of crazy stuff going on, and the trip back from the moon, our last little efforts to find platinum on the moon. This episode, we're doing a bit of a post-mortem on the Dauntless, which is to say it's not dead necessarily, but we built it and we used it, and there were some things we learned, and we want to kind of highlight those a little bit, and then we're going to take a look at the beginnings of our next build. But first, you can see we're down here on the ice lake where we landed the Dauntless. We're on the upper deck of the Dauntless, the exterior deck. We've got the Mantis over there that we brought over from the other ice lake. We've dismantled everything on the other ice lake except for our little hydrogen farm, because we've got 4 hydrogen tanks full of hydrogen that we can recover at some point, maybe. But everything else, all the mining operations, everything that we built over there has been dismantled and brought over. We brought over the termite, we brought over the canary, and now we're going to be here for the next little while. We've got all kinds of stuff that we can dig up. I don't want to get too crazy with the digging, but I found that I have a shortage of silver, and I need to correct that, which means we're probably going to be setting up the Mantis with prototype drill head, a new drill head, and we're going to see what we can find and just kind of keep that going in the background while we're working on other things. So what we need to do is we need to get down underneath into the bowels of the Dauntless, so to speak. Take a look at what's going on. All of our air vents are turned off so that we're not trying to oxygenate the planet. It's all basically taken care of. I've extracted a bit of ice from the surface of the ice lake. It took a while to find it, but we did find ice on the surface of the ice lake. We dug some up and we converted it in the oxygen generators so that we've got a little bit of hydrogen to keep our hydrogen tanks full while we're moving around. Now, it's a little bit noisy down here. You'll have to excuse that, but that's, the nature of the machinery. We've got 4 refineries down here, and they are slow. They are slower than slow. They're basically moving backwards at all times. They are so slow. You can see this is uranium that we've had processing in this refinery since before we left this planet to go to the moon. And it's been going non-stop since then, as have several of our other... Let's just filter this down a little bit. Refinery, post-refinery. There's some uranium. There's some some of the platinum, most of the platinum, actually, that we picked up from the last 2 platinum seams that we encountered. A total of 12,000 liters, which is 3 spacesuits full. Just 3. Uranium and uranium. Processing uranium that we had from before we left the planet's surface. That's how slow they are. It's going to be a while before we see any action in the platinum here, which is not that big of a deal. We aren't in high need for the platinum right away. We're basically going to be using it to make thrusters, which we're a ways away from needing right now. So we need to do something about that. We need to increase our ability to process ores kind of faster, I guess you could say. And to do that, we're probably going to need more refineries, and we're going to need a slightly different mix of upgrades. We're going to get rid of the power efficiency modules, and we're just going to have all straight productivity. We're going to crank up the productivity, the speed of the refineries as much as we can. And of course, what you can't do with faster refineries, we do with more refineries. So that's going to be one of the goals that we have. I don't even know why there's not a 4th refinery showing up in the menu. Frankly, I don't much care. It's not even a thing. Over here we've got our arc furnaces. The configuration worked well. It's a very dense setup for arc furnaces. We didn't really use arc furnaces for anything because we were on the moon. That's kind of key. I realized once we got to the moon and we realized how difficult it was to get around on the moon, we didn't really want to spend a lot of time mining for stuff that we could get easily from a nice, flat, convenient ice lake. So these guys hardly saw any action at all. In fact, I'd be surprised if they saw any action whatsoever. It's just a case where we had them in place, but we didn't pull up any iron, nickel, or cobalt so we didn't really have any use for them. That will be different on the new ship, because the new ship isn't just going to be for traveling to a moon. It's going to be for traveling to other planets and allowing us to do even larger, more elaborate builds. This is where we're at with the progression. So the arc furnace concept, the stacked furnaces, will be returning. I don't know if we'll necessarily need more than what we've got here, but we'll be keeping it in mind when we look at space that we're using, as well as power consumption, all those other things. The ducting that we did was better than previous attempts in our base and all these other setups that we've done. Room for improvement, definitely, in routing things and kind of sending things to where they need to be, and then when they're processed or manufactured into something, taking them and putting them into an adequate storage solution, we could do better. So that's something else that we're going to be keeping in mind, is the ducting. Oxygen tanks, we did okay. I never really felt like I was hurting for oxygen. We've got 6 tanks here, and I think we've got 6 on the other side. That wasn't a big deal. Oxygen generators, I never really felt like we weren't able to process ice fast enough. We have 12 oxygen generators. Hydrogen, getting out of the planet's atmosphere, was a bit tricky. So we're going to be keeping an eye on not only how much hydrogen we can store, but also how much hydrogen we have when we leave the planet, so that we can breach the planet's gravity well, and then we can also set down properly on a new planet when we get there, because there's going to be gravity and there's going to be atmosphere, and we're going to keep all that in mind. This is more ducting. This is all ducting for the hydrogen thrusters in the back of the ship. All hydrogen storage and item storage. We have 4 large cargo containers. I never once felt like we were short for cargo space, but with the expanded mining capacity in the new ship, I'm thinking that we're going to need more than 4. It's a possibility. Gyros, I came back after the fact, after the ship was in orbit over the moon, and I added, I think, 4 or 6 more gyros just to see, and it helped. People suggested, hey, use more gyros, the ship will turn faster, which was kind of nice, because otherwise you spend a lot of time scrolling the mouse sideways, frantically trying to turn the ship in the direction that you want it to face. So more gyros definitely be in the works for the next ship. So let's go take a look at the beginnings of that next ship. I would like to say that it was well underway and that we had all kinds of features to talk about, but we don't, because I was trying to make a new construction ship to replace the termite that would have been a little bit more versatile and easy to use, and it relied too much on rotors, which is risky, just even from a concept point of view. If you've got too many rotors in the design, you're taking a chance that everything will work except the rotors, and that's what happened. Now this is the beginnings of our new ship. This is going to be the Atlas Interplanetary Miner. Because really, the game goes in a cycle. You mine things, you process things, you assemble those into components, and then you use those components to build things that can travel around and mine things and start the cycle anew. So that's kind of the idea that we have here. I want it a little bit larger than the Dauntless, maybe a lot larger. We'll see how it goes. Sometimes building big just for the sake of building big doesn't make a ton of sense. But I do have reasons for building this ship a little bit bigger than the Dauntless to start off, and we'll see how it goes from there. First of all, obviously we've got wheels on this guy, and the reason for the wheels is sometimes you just get tired of worrying about fuel, and when you get tired of worrying about whether or not you got too much weight on the ship that's going to cause it to come crashing down shortly after you take off. It's nice to have, I think, some wheels that we can use to maneuver on relatively accessible terrain. Obviously, driving around on an ice lake shouldn't be that much of a challenge, but getting around on hills like this, for example, should also be a fairly straightforward thing. So I wanted to do some configurations with the wheels that would support us in doing that. I just need to check. Yeah, I've got plenty of hydrogen. So what we've got is we've got 7 wheels on each side. The 3 in the middle are the only ones that are currently touching the ground. They are on a suspension. All of the wheels are on a suspension. And these are the main drive wheels. These are the ones that you can be counting on to moving the vehicle around whenever it's moving around. But then on either side of those, we've got some wheels that are a little bit higher up. You can see they're not actually touching the ground. And they're a little bit closer in towards the center of the chassis. And these wheels are kind of like tank treads. You've got something on the ends that allows them to grab more aggressive terrain and lift the chassis up to make it easier on the drive wheels to do what the drive wheels need to do, so that realistically speaking, we shouldn't be encountering as often terrain that we can't get up because the drive wheels just can't navigate it. So we can lift up the chassis with these wheels here, and then the drive wheels, in addition to these wheels, would help move it along. And then the final multi-terrain wheel assignments, these guys here, front and back, even closer towards the center of the chassis. And the suspension on these ones is moving forward and back instead of up and down. All the wheels down here that we've looked at are up and down, but these ones are front and back, and these are for the really aggressive terrain so that you can basically drive into steep rock faces. There's some examples, stuff like this over here. The idea is we want to be able to drive up those and set ourselves up so that the wheels in the middle have a chance to get up and do their thing. And in order to do that, it helps to have wheels on the ends that lift the chassis up and get it started. And that's what these wheels are for. We may have to move the chassis back a bit. You can see the chassis is a little bit forward of the wheels. And the idea is that the wheels should be the first things making contact with any kind of surface that we encounter. So we probably end up moving this back a little bit or moving the wheels forward a little bit. We're not talking huge amounts, but just a little bit to make sure that the wheels are the first things that make contact. And that will be the all-terrain wheel system, which I haven't really had a chance to test. I just got the first reactor into place, and I got the pilot seat on, and it started rolling away on me, and we got it stopped, and then it was time to make the video if we wanted to get it out today. So next episode, we'll be doing some tests of the rolling chassis, but for now, I just wanted to show you where we're starting and where we're going. We've got 4 reactors this time around. We're waiting on silver. I have to track down some silver, which won't be difficult, but I don't have it right now, so we're waiting on it to make the rest of the reactor components that we need to finish the other 3 reactors. There's not a rush. As long as we've got 1 up and running for now, that's plenty. 6 cargo containers. As we were mentioning in the Dauntless, we've got 4, so we're going to go 6, maybe 8, so that we can gather up a bunch of stuff. We can gather up a bunch of ice on an ice lake if we want, and it's going to take up a lot of space to store it, but it's not going to take long to process it, so it's not a bad idea to have that extra space, as long as we don't have to sacrifice other things to get it. We're going to have, basically this lower deck is going to be similar to the Dauntless lower deck. It'll be all about the machines and the processing, but we can already see that we've got more space available to us on this lower deck than we had in the Dauntless. Probably 50 to 75% more space is available to us. The one difference, the major difference between this vehicle and the Dauntless is that this one is going to have onboard mining, similar to the Mantis. It's going to have booms from which you can suspend the bore heads that we've been doing. I want to test some prototype bore heads, some ideas that I've got. And also we want to have onboard welders so that assembling those bore heads is much easier. You can assemble 6 bore heads, or, the majority of 6 bore heads, all at the same time, and then you just go around and you put on the horizontal components if that's what you want to do. If you want the horizontal thing, you can do that. Otherwise, if you just want a straightforward circular bore head, that's even easier. So we're going to have onboard welders to do that, and possibly even onboard grinders to dismantle the bore heads when you're ready to move the vehicle again, if it's not going to behave with the pistons. So a lot of focus on mining, but also focus on the thrusters situation and getting around. We got the platinum. We're going to make some ion thrusters so that this thing can maneuver around in space. Not necessarily the fastest accelerating ship, but certainly it'll be able to move around whether we've got hydrogen or not. And of course, hydrogen thrusters for getting in and out of the atmosphere, and plenty of storage for the hydrogen thrusters. So we've got a lot of stuff that's going to be going on with this ship, and the first things that I want to do is basically get the interior parts up and running, the refining and the assembly, and then we can decommission the guts of the Dauntless and just have it happening all over here, because we're going to be needing a lot of the stuff that we're making as we're making it, so that we can just kind of focus our attention over here and not have to make all kinds of trips back and forth. So the next episode, hopefully we'll have a little bit to show you in terms of the rolling chassis, maybe goofing around in the hills up here to see how well it gets around, do a little bit of tuning with the wheels and see what happens, and then we'll continue on with the build, and we'll just kind of chronicle the build as it happens, and this hopefully will be one of those builds that warrants offering a blueprint for it. So if you want to be notified about future videos in this series and others, and for other games, you can always subscribe to my channel. You can follow me on social media. Links for social media are in the information box below the video. Feel free to leave your comments and feedback. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.